Every one of you watching this screen, look out.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
What did I tell you about cartoons?
They've got a lot of brains, and they've got a lot of chutzpah.
Tell me how comic books make you feel, Dave.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Hi, this is Frantz, Kantor, cartoonist, illustrator, and toon talker, and I'm here with
Jim Bridges. And hi, Frantz. I'm the
who are you?
I'm the president of the Australian Cartoon Museum, and we're having a go today at the Lexicon of Comicana
By
Mort Walker.
who is Mort Walker? Who is Mort Walker, and what did he do?
Will you
He
have
did.
a bit of respect for the dead? He's just
Did he
died.
do Beetle Bailey?
He
or?
did.
Yeah.
He definitely did.
So Beetle Bailey was a comic strip of the 1960s, which is making fun of
Army life.
Army life, yeah.
But
So-
he was a great cartoonist, and he also was one of the Kickstarters for the American Cartoon Art Museum,
Yeah,
which
I will show
actually
you
had
what that
many
looks
different
like.
places.
This is where it is. This is what it
Well,
looks
that
like.
was in New York, and
Yeah.
then it moved later on to
Connecticut.
to Florida.
Well, that's in Connecticut.
Yeah, well, it moved,
Oh, it moved again.
and then then they got into all sorts of trouble, and they went to the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
and then they went
jumped
broke.
up? Oh.
They broke, and then they gave it to the Billy Fisher Library in Ohio, where the biggest collection of American artwork is at this present.
Have a look at that. The Last Laugh, this page is called. Page 93. There's a total of what you've spent on the book. So your total loss net the resale value at the recycled paper centre.
And it was published.
Here's the thing.
It was published in 1980.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what those figures
haha,
are.
the end. So he's no longer with us, Mort Walker. He died of a
Yeah.
broken heart.
Yeah, that would have killed him, because his baby, who the museum, as a museum director myself, I can really feel for him.
Now, I'll tell you why this book is important, because there's some things in here which are quite interesting. There's the Cartoon Law of Physics, of Cartoon Motion, which is a magazine article in Esquire in
It
1980.
explains why when you walk out on space and you can stand there and you won't fall down until you look down, then you'll fall. It explains all that stuff.
Yeah. So there are other little treatises
And if
that
you
he's mentioned here, appendixes of further reading, where symbols come from. So oftentimes people say, oh, cartoon symbols, they come from hieroglyphics and cave paintings for sure. Not really. They're quite
They do,
articulate.
but they don't.
Yeah, they're quite articulate. I'll tell you why.
Anyway, have a look at that drawing.
Yeah.
So there he is. There's the artist trying to figure it out, and he's
Got a
trying to
speech
get
bubble.
an idea, and he calls it a cumulus fumetti. Fumetti's Italian for
Cloud.
cloud. No, for
fume.
smoke.
Fumes.
For smoke.
Yeah.
So he uses all these words.
So he makes up his own words to describe these things, which I think even he would have had trouble remembering a lot of
Although
them.
cross-hatching sounds pretty simple to me.
Yeah. But what's a height and a briffet?
I don't know. And
Let's delve into the book and see what he
Yes.
means.
Let's
So-
start at the very beginning.
Yeah, let's start at the very beginning. You know, there is Beetle Bailey and a whole bunch of his characters. You can see they're quite iconic. There's the Sarge.
And the dog.
I never
Don't
saw
forget the
dog.
mascot.
Never saw the mascot.
Everyone has a mascot. Aren't you into mascots?
So Beetle Bailey was his seminal work, right?
Yep.
Now he talks a little bit about symbols. Now symbols are very interesting because symbols are in essence words put into picture form, and they encapsulate phrases or terms or things that, rather than us pointing, the symbols are there as a precursor to writing. And what they actually mean is, you know, the axiom You know the saying, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words.
Oh yeah, but a cartoon's worth a damn sight more.
Yeah, well, that's just a gag, but the reality of it is that these symbols contain so much more meaning than words. If you were to explain, a lot of these terms from hieroglyphics, from hieratic writing, erratic symbols, it would be much, much, much bigger than the papyrus texts.
Oh yeah.
So he goes in, these are quite interesting and common sense, right? We use symbols in everyday work, Every day we see symbols like the men's restroom and, no smoking signs and no running and all of these sort of symbols that you see day to day, every single day of your life, right? So that's where he's got the premise of this book. It's based on a visual iconography, a visual shared language, a lingua franca, if you like, which is a common tongue that all humans speak and understand almost from birth.
Especially,
you got any comment about that, or
especially if they've read comics?
Well, comics are probably the area where you would see them most, but not exclusively to comics.
No, but comics, because of the narrative form of comics, they've probably come up with more of these ideas than any other way.
Well, the word balloon, which is a symbol for social media chatting, comes from comics. So he has these words like tautology and oculama and orology and I can't even pronounce that, protestillation. These are words that he came up with as a gag. This whole book is a gag to really, not to make fun of the idea of the visual vocabulary, but to really rename it, hijack it.
No, he's giving them names.
Yeah, but the wrong names.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what
so he's hijacking it.
That's right.
Right.
I mean,
so this is important.
He's got these difficult send-up words for a subject that, this has become a text. It was never designed to be a text, but it's become a text because it's important that you actually do a book on this subject.
Yeah. So these are facial expressions. These are eye expressions, right? Coming from cartoons and comics. And today, of course, the iconography is much more richer because of anime and manga.
Yeah.
So orology is just different mouth shapes and what they mean.
Overcome.
Yeah, overcome. It's sort of, you see these in cartoons. You see these expressions all the time in cartoons. They're sort of like, they become symbolic or very simplified symbols for complicated messages, visual messages. So he's tried to put together a total tautology. You can do it yourself. You can put together just a bunch of facial expressions and write underneath what they mean, Like here's one that means inebriated, which is pretty obvious. Insouciant, no one knows what, this is what I mean by this joke. The book, a lot of the book is written as a joke. Seditious, covetous, lassitude. So he's obviously gone through like sloth and greed and all of these sort of primal expressions and sort of renamed them. So he's renamed a lot of them. Look at slurm as an expression.
Well, look at this one. He keeps on breaking the fourth wall, and here it is.
Where?
You paid good money for this book.
Yeah.
So he keeps on referring to you.
The fourth wall.
Yeah.
Look, seeing daggers, which is an expression.
Yeah.
Right? Seeing hearts.
Yeah. And
feeling neutral, they're just
circles.
So these are based loosely on like Felix the Cat cartoons of the 1920s, where he used to look in you'd see dotted lines in comics and cartoons. So a lot of that, but before you get back, look at this, the overheated. See these serrated lines here? He actually calls them words. He describes them as different things.
Well, also, these could be worry lines.
Yeah, there could be anything. There could be heat.
Yeah.
It could be worry. It could be
Yeah.
spider sense.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that is spider sense.
Well, that does
I-
that.
I-
Tell me if I'm wrong. Does that not look like Spider-Man's spider sense from Ditko?
Okay.
What I'm saying is a lot of these symbols are universal, but they have different meanings.
That's right. And
so you can recontextualize them to
Yeah.
your like,
yeah.
however you want, right? This is just a jokey expression of character building, how to create a character out of these simple shapes. We won't look at that because I don't agree with this. This is really silly. Iconic silhouettes is very powerful if you're looking at...
Well, there's the most iconic one of all.
Yeah, at cartoons. They're very recognizable. So he does do a little bit of a treat on the actual types of characters here. You've got sort of goofy type characters. You've got sort of...
Well, they're all goofy type.
Yeah, see with the overbites and the teeth. And you've got here...
Intelligent people.
intelligent people, so they're sort of simplified with glasses and pipes. So, yeah, and she's even got a pencil in her bun.
She's a school teacher.
Yeah,
You can tell because of the apple.
the apple. See, these are symbols which you grab and you put in if they're appropriate. If they're not appropriate, then you come up with new symbols. This, again, stereotypes is a way of using types of people, stereotypical symbols of people, which may fit, they may not fit, depending on how you use them. And of course, they get updated all the time. As do dictionaries. The dictionary gets updated all the time with new terms.
It sounds like we should update this book.
Yeah. So I want to speed through these types.
All these are symbols: Mars, atom bomb.
Yeah, Republicans and things.
Yeah.
They're just giving you more.
See, the atom bomb has
But-
a symbol of. He has the hat that War used to wear on top of his head.
Yeah.
That's Bill Morton, I think. He
Yeah.
originally did that idea. And this is the symbols of the Republican and Democrat by Thomas
and Arabs
Nast.
oil.
Yeah, he sits on an
OPEC
oil.
Arab.
Yeah.
And
he grins.
things like the New Year baby,
And he grins.
which is probably comes from the birth of newspapers. It may not work anymore.
Well,
So-
every generation has to invent their own symbol.
Yeah. Not just every generation. I think everybody should be able to invent
but
their
I
own
mean-
symbol. So why not come up with your own symbol? But don't do what he does. Don't come up with your own names for the symbols. Make sure that the names are very simplified and evocative of the actual things that they're describing. Seeing notes, thinking about notes. These are the symbols that he comes up with. He gives them weird little names and stuff.
Well,
but they're very useful.
The word read refers
very
to
useful.
The word read refers to reading mostly words. So how do you read? I mean, you should have another word for reading pictures.
Well, what
surely.
did Popeye say? I can read reading, but I can't read writing.
Right, okay, all right. So here's outside the barrier again.
Heights, vites, dites, and briffets.
Yeah.
We don't know what they are. We don't know what the hell they are. But these are things that are trying to indicate shininess, like a mirror, or heights that indicate speed, drawn horizontally usually,
or
right?
vertical, as in his picture.
Puffs of clouds are briffets, dust clouds. Okay, so forget about the name briffets and heights and dites, but just think about these symbols that they use to describe something. So if somebody sits on a pin and jumps up, right, then you use this symbol.
Even his hair goes straight. See?
Yeah. So you use this symbol to sort of exemplify, to exaggerate the action, which is fantastic. Can you imagine your company reports decorated with your own versions of this incredible cartoon symbolism? Your visual vocabulary would be incredibly rich.
Yeah, but without the words.
So
It's
what
cross-hatching.
some of these here, agitation lines, he's called them agitrons. Throwatron, which is arcs that are created or drawn after a ball or something, so indicate a path. Similar with, curvy ones if it's a paper
And
airplane.
Stagatron.
Yeah.
Because he's drunk.
Yeah, so they're almost like dotted lines that this
Turnatron,
can also be
Turnitrons.
footprints. Turnitrons. These are turns,
Yeah.
turn shapes.
Bumpatron because of the
Yeah, like if you're
Balump.
yeah,
Balumpatron.
swishatron, things that indicate movement, right?
Yeah.
Sort of a stroboscopic sort of effect. This is interesting. This is kind of a what would you call this?
Oh, fingerprinting of artists.
Is it? I think it's a crosshatch library.
Yeah.
And where they come from. So you've got the Popeye crosshatch, you've got the Chester Gould Dick Tracy crosshatch, you've got a lot of other things like Little Orphan Annie crosshatches and J.R. Williams, and you've got Ben Day, which is the name. Well, he's called it Ben's Day.
Yeah.
But Ben Day is sort of like a letratone or a half-tone
And
dot.
some of
You
these
can see the
hatches
dots.
don't even cross.
Yeah, they're not so cross.
Not so cross.
No. So, Stipples, what was the funny one you pointed out before? Here we go. John Fichetti's daub, old sock dipped in ink. Where is that? It's over here. Old sock dipped in ink. So, it's a humorous way of describing the different cross-hatching techniques and where he's sort of taken them from, So that's an interesting thing when you want to work in pen. Lucaflex, of course, this refers to this shiny thing, which it's actually like a Dutch window.
Well, it came from photography.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would indicate something really reflective.
Yeah.
So what's it reflecting? It's got to reflect something. So they put in these little
Windows.
These little windows.
Yeah. And these aren't the computer windows. These are pre-windows.
What's Windows in the computer? They had Dutch
it's-
Windows in the computer.
No, it's got something to do with Bill Gates.
So are you saying Bill Gates is very reflective?
Well, I don't know. Who came first?
Blurjets are these sort of zip lines with they're called, what did he call them? Stroboscopic. You know what
Yeah.
stroboscopic is?
Yeah.
This sort of like
Well, there's a-
multi-image.
There's a cartoonist descending a stairway.
Yeah, it's a way of indicating speed,
The Russian.
motion. Right, so these are symbols. These are symbols, folks, not related to realism. They're symbols that indicate something. They indicate speed or they indicate reflection. Symbols. So you can actually use a symbol like this in your work. I've done it in illustrations. I've done it in obviously you're referencing cartoons, so it'd be helpful if it was a cartoony style illustration for sure, But, Fumetti, we can do a whole thing on word balloons. Please ask us to do a whole series on word balloons because I think it would be fascinating. Look at this. Drop dead! With icicles coming off the word balloon. Whispers. Look at the dotted line around the whisper. Right? Singing. Music notes.
What do you think he's saying here?
This is sort of like an exclamation question mark combined into a squiggle. It's very interesting. See, you can use symbols. Walnuts. You're a nut.
Yeah.
Zs. You can actually use letters. Question marks. Exclamation marks.
Well, that means to me snoring.
That can be snoring. Yeah. Absolutely. So this is how rich visual symbols are.
And early.
This is where they come from. This is Fumetti. This is how they came. They look like steam coming out of the mouth.
Yeah.
And I think there was a Mayan, 500-year-old Mayan comic that proved that even cross-culturally, right on the other side of the world from Europe, they used to use comics and word balloons and things like that to describe
You mean comics came from South America, not North America?
No, comics came independently into culture, well, mainly from Europe, but independently it was featured in other cultures, independently. This is part of lingua, as I said, lingua franca.
Universal.
Yeah, universal language.
Yeah.
Visual language. Very, very powerful. Very funny. You could easily decorate your work with these things, incorporate them in your work beautifully, because it's a universal language. and try to come up with new variations on the themes, you know, but please don't name them yourself. Don't come up with silly names. Just use a name that's relevant. So the use of this going into the
pretty
comic.
silly that we have these universal symbols and we have all these different names for them.
Well, only he made different names.
Okay.
But the idea of like borders.
Well, fumetti is Italian.
Yeah. Well, that's the fumetti
Meaning
is the
fume, like smoke.
yeah. Well, that's the derivative of the word balloon.
Yeah,
and the thought
fumare
bubble.
is to
the word
smoke.
balloon.
I think
It's the derivative of that.
Yeah.
But you also used in woodblocks in Germany and stuff. You use ribbons.
Yeah. So he's moved on to the borders of speech balloons now.
Yep. Well, now you're looking at the borders of everything.
Yeah.
So the borders of frames and things, different borders and what they
It's
mean.
like
You know,
stamps.
like if you've got a dream,
Yeah.
you use this sort of cloud border.
Yeah.
If it's an action frame, you use this broken border.
Yeah.
If it's something sort of memorial or something, you use like a double thick border. And if you use something that's dotted around the border like that, then that could mean
Well, this one's
something
called
else.
no border, but it's actually got enough things in it to tell you that there is a border.
Yeah, there's another. I don't know if he mentions it in here. The 22 panels that always work. We could talk about that.
Well, he wouldn't do
ad
while he would,
infinitum. So these are different treats on borders and how comic artists
Yeah.
have used borders in their work in many different ways. This again is getting into morals. You know, like good guys wear white hats and bad guys wear black hats. So it's a sort of symbolizing types of people. Now be very careful when you symbolize types of people, because it gets to the point where you're actually drawing attention to negative traits a lot of the times, you know, and then it becomes very dangerous. It's cartoon is a double-edged sword. Would you agree with that?
Like
Or can?
satire.
Yeah.
Like satire.
So onomatopoeia is obviously not his word. That's an actual word. That means words like bang that describe the actual thing. They sound like the actual thing that it's making. I did a little note here, referred Don Martin. Don Martin did a beautiful page on exaggerating onomatopoeic words with very odd sounds that he made up his own words. Do you remember the Don Martin cartoon of that?
Yes.
Yeah, we might be able to, we'll talk about that in depth on another time. You can actually Google that. So Don Martin Onomatopoeia. So if you Google that, you'd come up with this really funny cartoon where he uses these incredible onomatopoeic words of his own to describe these sounds in the comic. So symbolia, like the sawing of a wood to describe snoring, or Zs to describe sleep, or light bulbs to describe ideas, right? These are common symbols. These are very, very common symbols. Now these come from cartoons and comics, right? Particularly cartoons, that, you know, because they're very simple and they mean an awful lot to us.
Well, they're symbolic shorthand, aren't they?
Yeah, but we understand what they mean. You see, cross-culturally, from the other side of the world, you know, if you were to do a ghost like that, you'd know what everyone would know what it meant.
Yeah.
You know, even this sort of weird thing here, this guy with a bundle of polka-dotted handkerchief, bundle of goods, of his belongings on a stick over his shoulder, means that he's like a tramp.
Hit the road, Jack. And here
we
it
haven't
says
seen that since the 1920s.
Bones are always this shape, whether tibia or femur. And this is just, you know, shorthand for landscape.
Yeah.
Urban landscape.
Yeah.
And this is a patch.
And paint always has drippings over the edge.
Yeah.
Over the edge.
Always.
You know? You never show a whole brick wall, you just do one or two bricks.
Yeah.
Just to give them the idea, that's enough. Distant birds should always dot the sky in the form of inverted W's.
Yes. I
You know,
learnt that.
these are funny.
I learnt that. I thought that was one of the best things I learned at school.
Yeah.
How to draw birds. It
Yeah.
just goes zip, zip with a dot in the middle.
Footprints duplicate the shape of shoe bottoms naturally. So again, you know, with like the cartoon laws of physics, these are based on a commonality, a common understanding of symbols and what their meanings are. And you know, what we should do is put our own lexicon together, our own sort of dictionary.
Yes.
So people can actually look at that.
I
and
think I
refer
might
to
take
it
you up
all
on
the
that.
time.
I might take you up on this is swearing.
Yeah, different ways of swearing, censored, all of these things that you can get to. We'll talk more about this in greater detail. But
Steinberg.
Yeah, Saul Steinberg. Now, Steinberg was a graphic designer more than
he's the greatest cartoon mind the world's known.
Yeah. So he was more of a graphic designer than a cartoonist, I would say, because of his...
he used to do visual puns within puns within puns. He's the James Joyce of cartooning, I reckon.
Yeah, but I would say he'd be more of a graphic designer because his use of simplicity is quite profound.
Well, he hardly used words.
Yeah.
For a start.
So, it's all about the visual language.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. So the rest of the book is more concerned with the history of cartoons and how they're used, or how they've, it's sort of like a homage to Blondie and Charlie Brown and all of the different contemporaries of his.
Felix Fosdick has been shot in the face 3 times.
Yeah.
And he's still alive.
Yeah.
These are bullet holes. He's still alive.
Yeah, but they're like Swiss cheese. They have dimension.
He's punching up a goon here.
Yeah.
I think they're called goons. And this is the after effect. This is what, while they're lying there after.
Well, planets and stars and things. So
birds, he put the whole lot in there.
Yeah, but this is how other cartoonists have actually used symbols to explain action. Right? So that's why he's referencing them. And he does that quite well. So it's a world of possibilities that he's sort of exploring.
Here are the birds that Snoopy
talking
talks
rocks.
to.
Yes.
And they just always talk like that.
They're cheap.
Yeah.
So, without saying cheap, he just does little dots.
Well, they're little claw
gibberish.
marks. Little claw marks, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's shorthand.
Yeah. So, digitrons is just his word for how cartoonists draw hands and figures.
Well, all artists have trouble drawing hands. It's just that cartoonists only have to draw 4 of them.
Yeah, but some cartoonists do 4 of them. Depends on the cartoonist. It's really up to you. Whether you want to draw 4 hands, 4 fingers on a hand, or 3. Bulbonics is another. Chapter 4 is Bulbonics. This is not about this is about ideas, I guess, but more about
bending over.
This is
He's tied up. Oh no, it's not. Okay.
I can't see that, but of an elephant's bum. So these are just different again, going into tropes, into different sort of symbols and things which may or may not have a shared understanding. Kissing booths and stuff like that. It may not work. Cannibal pots, things like that. You'd have to see Bugs Bunny in a cannibal pot in order to understand that. Flying carpets, you'd have to see Aladdin.
A lot of these things are old, very old tropes.
Yeah.
They're not used anymore.
So you need to...
this one is.
Yeah. So when you come up with a trope...
And a girl coming out of a cake is less and less.
Yeah. So when you come up with these ideas, bed of nails and things like that, when you come up with these tropes, you have to be sure that they are understood. So always check with them.
And now we're getting into how-to.
This is just funny ways of drawing now, shapes and lines and things like that. So it's more humorous than useful. Strip balloons. How to draw ears. Boom.
How to draw toes.
Yeah.
You've
gone too far. Yeah. The trick is knowing when to stop.
Yeah.
So, it's not a drawing book. This part of the book is more of a gag. So just be aware of that. So, how to draw a man drawing a nude. This is actually quite funny. So you have a look at that.
It's just the eyes.
Yeah, the eyes and the nose. You can see the eyes dilating, the pupils dilating, and then sort of expanding, and then gets embarrassed, cross-eyed, and looks away.
Well, it's also like how a lot of artists just use the black page and they just have 2 eyes.
Yeah.
Talking because they couldn't be bothered drawing.
Yeah.
And this is just
So again, going back to comic book or cartoon layouts, like allowing your cartoon to have more space so that the words are not squashed. This is like common sense, right? So I don't know why you would have put that in, but yeah, okay, fine.
Well,
it's
this
in
is
there
just
now.
reverse history. She normally says, "I've got a headache,"
Yeah. So leaving
And
out
he's
important
jumped-
elements.
And out of season, he's jumping into a swimming pool that's all iced over because of those lines.
Yeah. So most of it's common sense.
And that's bang. There's no, you
There's
don't
no
even
gun,
need
but
a
there
gun.
is a bullet. Strangely enough.
Yeah, there is a bullet.
Addendums, more dumb things, and they certainly are dumb. Art speak. This part here is quite interesting. About the use of symbols, the universal language of symbols, which we've talked about here, and this is where the idea came from for this book.
The Acme rocket.
Yeah,
And this is Tom.
Tom. Yeah.
And we
So
get
that's
the
it.
end.
That's it. Ha, the end.
Are we?
So what do you think? What do you reckon about this book?
I think we should. I think it's time we did another one.
I think we should.
I think
do
Mort
it.
led the way, but we should do another one.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to do is maybe have something more interactive so that people can actually come up with their own unique way.
We can't call
There's
it.
no
We can't call it.
lexicon.
We can't call it a cartoon con or a comic con, can we? No. I like Comicana.
Well, why don't you just use it as a dictionary of cartoons and symbols?
That's right.
So, that should be a discussion or a blog post, an ongoing discussion.
Yeah.
And, inviting you, the reader, or the viewer, to participate and come up with your own unique symbols. You might have something totally new, totally
This is interesting because he's actually
different.
swearing as a speech balloon and he's thinking of ideas.
Yeah.
And if you reverse them, you could still get away with it. He could be thinking. He could be saying his idea, and he could be thinking swearing. Except most of us swear because it's a verbal thing. But
So he's actually saying light bulb.
he could be saying light bulb, and he could be thinking swear words.
Right.
See, I'm just saying that this is the beauty of cartooning. You can actually do all these things. That's the normal way, but you could quite easily reverse them. A lot of humour is just simply reversing the situation.
So the reason why I bought this book is because it highlights the visual language of cartoons,
Yes.
right? And how prolific it is in our culture.
We need
Even
a
to
dictionary.
today, this is written 40 years ago, but
Yeah.
today it's still relevant to think about this process of visual communication, visual language.
And who?
Our visual literacy is based on common knowledge of all of these things.
That's
We
right.
know what it means.
Who
all of us.
published this book? Who published this book?
This is self-published.
Was it?
Author Guild backinprint.com edition. This is Author Guild back in print. This is a self-published book.
Ah, okay, and it's still in
Vanity
publication.
Press.
Well, that'll show.
No,
you.
it's not.
No,
it's,
it's been republished. Obviously,
Yeah.
there is a need for this, but let's update it. Let's make it relevant.
I think there's a need for the discussion rather
Yes.
than actual book. The problem with a book is once you get past the general usage of symbols, you get more into like specific things and symbols that actually
Yeah, but we want.
have modern meanings.
But we want people to
and
make
those
up.
modern meanings change
we
as
want.
time
That's
goes on.
right. But we want people to make up their own symbols.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
have,
we want.
yes, but how symbols work is they have to be universal.
That's right.
So when you make up a modern symbol, I have to know what it means.
Yes. Yes.
Is that fair?
But we can simplify these things because that's the whole process of language and everything. It changes.
Life should
constantly.
be simple. Who
Yes.
said that?
But every kid has done their apprenticeship.
Da
with
Vinci said that.
Hang on, no.
Life should be simple.
He did not say that at all.
He did. He
Um,
said life should be simple.
every
Go
kid on
away
the-
and stop annoying me.
Every kid on the planet has done their apprenticeship with cartoons.
Every
One
human.
way or the other. That's
Every
right.
human.
Well, yeah, and then they
Yeah.
grow up to be adults and they forget this stuff. We want you to remember this stuff.
Yeah.
So you can use it in your own life, your own Christmas cards, your own presentation.
That's right. And you can develop a sense of humor.
Yeah.
So if we're ever invaded by aliens from another planet, you know perfectly well what funny cartoon.
We can fight them with our sense of humour.
We can fight them with our sense of humor. You can draw cartoons and comics about them on the back of their spaceships when they're not looking.
Nobody
to annoy
has
them.
yet written a science fiction book of aliens who have sense of humour, have they?
There are no aliens with senses of humour.
Well, there you are.
Not even
We're
ET.
safe. We're safe, folks.
No aliens.
As long as we've got the common cold, which knocked them all off in the War of the Worlds.
Yeah, well, that wasn't funny, was it?
No, that wasn't funny.
But you know, I mean, this is like, you know, okay, fine.
You can protect yourself from bullies.
You can't
with
believe
humour,
in something
with humour, and you can protect yourself from aliens with humour, right?
Well, I'm a testament to that because I used to be bullied.
You were bashed up by aliens.
I was bashed up by aliens in school.
Oh, that's right. You went to Sydney. You're in Sydney. Yeah. North Shore?
No. To get out of being bullied, to get out of being bashed every morning, I would do comics. I would do cartoons.
And what, they'd look over your shoulder and they think you're impressive?
Well, I would make fun of the situation with cartoons.
Oh.
They would look at it and say, hey, that's you being bashed up.
Oh, that's
yes.
funny. So we don't
That's
have to
a
bash you
cartoon-
up.
so
We
we
don't have to
don't-
bash you up today.
Exactly right. That's what happened.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all right. That's all from me and all from Jim. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the sour persimmons, cousin.